Welcome back to the Tectonic Takes podcast. For the first time in forever, we get to talk about a win, but where was this in August? Where was this for the last 10 games? We'll talk about all of that. It's Ivan, it's Abram, and it's Devon, and we got to witness a win, but it was among the most stressful variety, but we will take any variety we can get. Abram, your initial thoughts, and how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I mean, it was just you're right. It was very stressful. I don't think that I consider it's like there's any reason besides the other team really lacking in their chances. I think that they underestimated us, and with good reason. There's reason to like not think San Jose is going to be that formidable of an opponent. But I feel like they didn't come with their A game, and we were able to punish them for that with some good defensive displays, which is not something we could say every game. But I think our defense and midfield, everyone tried really hard, and I think that's what ended up getting us the win.
Yeah, Devin, this is like needing air essentially, but how's it feel now that we've had a little bit of time to process this unique win?
It's like at the end of a diving trip. You get to take the mask off, you get to take all the heavy equipment behind you from your shoulders and just relieve yourself of all that stress that's been building up to this game because we all admittedly walked in thinking we're going to lose this. Abram came over, we had a little bit of food while watching the game. It was pretty fun. But, all expectations were driving to that destination of a loss. And somehow the San Jose Earthquakes, despite having not rookie center backs on the back line, but just
We're
having kind of
rookies.
yeah, well, just inexperience in the back line and other factors we'll get into. I think it's impressive that we walked away against supporter shield candidates with a clean sheet and a 1-0 win.
Yeah, our back three had an average age of just under 23 years old, and it's not like we were the only ones using youth for our back line. When we first played San Diego this season, we emphasized how much San Diego had to lean into some younger players, and arguably their player of the match, Manu Dua, he's only 20 years old, the center back from Ghana. And that's what this game was. A lot of defense, not a lot of goal scoring opportunities. But the biggest one that ended up finding the back of the net, it was Arango Martinez answering the call of duty in a very perilous game. Arango the assist, Martinez the goal. Abram, can you walk us through that goal?
Yeah, what I remember was that Chicho got the ball and he had a bit of pressure on him, but Martinez made a very good run, a well timed run, and Chicho is always going to attempt that pass when Jose Martinez is available. And then Jose Martinez, there's not much to say. He squared up with the keeper, and he's done this 100 and something times now in the MLS. Very, very calm in that situation. Ended up, um, he did hit the keeper on the way, but what matters that it ended up in the back of the net. It crossed over the line. So, very, very good finish. He had an opportunity later in the match to do a very similar thing, but he missed that one. But it doesn't matter. He scored one of the two, and they don't score any. You end up winning the game.
Yep, and we'll dive deeper into the stats, of course. I know you love to do that, but I'll give you some of the headlines. 72% possession for San Diego. They had 2.3 xG to our 0.9. They outshot us 19 to 7. 3 shots on target for them, 2 for us. 4 big chances to San Diego, 2 for the Quakes, and 1 big chance missed for us, and they missed all 4 of theirs. So it was very much smash and grab, and this usually ends badly for the San Jose Earthquakes because this requires a big defensive effort, and it just simply hasn't been there for much of this season. That's been the story of the season, more so than their goal scoring. And I think it just feels good to know that this team can grind out a win again. No matter what happens with the playoff standings, we know it's out of our hands since our competitors have a game in hand on us. But all you can do is give yourself a chance, and it will look very silly if we do make the playoffs with the funeral we gave this team last week. but it will be the best kind of silly, Devon.
If there's one team to do it, I feel like the San Jose Earthquakes, ever since we've moved back to San Jose and took back a rightful place here, like we always seem to play poor against other low tier teams, and then all of a sudden when we play teams like, for example, Seattle Sounders of the last like 7 years, we seem to play really well against them, and the same thing applies to both San Diego and I guess Vancouver. Now we've already walked away with, I think, a draw, or was it a win? It was a win against Vancouver, right?
We beat them, yeah.
Yeah, we beat Vancouver, and so like things like that. It just seems like we seem to fare well. Like we drew against Miami this year, and we've competed really well against top performing teams. I don't want to say that I think we're going to do it again, because I know the curse, and I'm sure people who have watched. But if there's a team to do it and to perform, it is us. It is the Quakes, and I think, Ivan, you can probably talk a little bit about Vancouver's upcoming schedule, but it's looking favorable for us.
I think the big thing in that favorability is the fact that they have a Wednesday game in the Canadian Championship final. And congratulations to Vancouver FC making it an all Vancouver affair. So not bad for the CPL team. But that does mean that they have to derive some of their attention away from the San Jose Earthquakes. And it will be very interesting to see, because the two teams that we faced most recently, looking forward to that game, is the two teams at the top of the Western Conference. So Vancouver Whitecaps have a game in hand on San Diego and Minnesota. Those are the three teams that we're really focusing on, mainly because we don't want to give LAFC that much credit, but they are only 4 points off. But it's San Diego 57, Vancouver 57, and Minnesota 55. But if you ask them, I think that silverware is the most important thing, and you have a chance to guarantee silverware on Wednesday. If you take care of business as you should, the MLS team against the CPL team, you beat Vancouver FC, you win a Canadian Championship. And granted, for the most part, ever since Vancouver and Montreal have entered MLS in 2011, it's a 1 in 3 chance at silverware, so it's probably not the biggest deal for them, but you'd still like to win it when you get the chance. And the Supporters Shield, you can't guarantee you have that chance. And frankly, they might fancy their chances. Even looking at this San Diego result, they can look at that as a what not to do against the San Jose Earthquakes guide, and they can still field a competitive team that wins the Canadian Championship, and they can beat us. Like, they have a little bit more depth now. They didn't lose some players in the summer, like Pedro Vite, but they also gained some reinforcements led by Thomas Müller, of course. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. For San Diego FC, it was a very frustrating game for them and their attacking options, such as Chucky Lozano. He did get subbed off late, but that was mainly preservation for the remaining games, and you want to keep him fresh for the playoff run, knowing that he's going to be very important. But a lot of San Jose Earthquakes ties between the two teams. We've already discussed the Verhoeven, Godoy of it all, but of course the big storyline was Amal Pellegrino giving a very familiar performance in this one, Devon.
Yeah, I think we all saw the Pellegrino that we knew for the Earthquakes. Not the same Pellegrino we saw last year, but the Pellegrino we know of this year. Kind of a shame, because I low-key admittedly wanted to see him perform really well. I was kind of hoping to see him score a goal, even though if he did score a goal, we'd only walk away with a point. But nonetheless, like, yeah, it's cool to see him start for another team, first and foremost, and to see him giving it his all and actually having a couple of really good chances and playing at that 9 position that I guess he might not be entirely familiar with. It was cool to see that connection, playing against us anyway.
Yeah, San Diego, they've rarely put a foot wrong on the field, and they've rarely made bad decisions this season in terms of their roster construction. But they didn't formalize the loan for Milan Iliovsky, and he really was a proficient goal scorer in the minutes he had in MLS this season. And instead, he goes on to Philadelphia Union, and at this time, he's listed as having 1 goal in 3 games. So I'm assuming it's limited minutes there as well, so he's similarly efficient. And I think, with all due respect to Pellegrino, that might have been a downgrade having him there instead of Ilyaski. And it was a double Quakes sub out of the game, as both Godoy and Pellegrino were the first ones out for San Diego as they were chasing the game. And thankfully, Devon, you used up your one wish for a good San Diego performance on Anders Dreyer in the reverse fixture. So Pellegrino didn't turn into Norwegian League Pellegrino in this one. But Abram, a little bit of relief knowing that Pellegrino wasn't going to just randomly show up in this revenge game opportunity.
Right. I think that there's always the fear of that happening because there's the heightened tensions. I think that there's drama there. I'm glad it didn't end up happening, and he we all called it. I don't think anyone would have looked at his form and without the storyline predicted that he would be the one making a difference for them. But obviously, the fact that he did just come from us and it was such an abrupt end, you know, brings more to the narrative. But no, I mean he hasn't scored since April, and I believe that was the Open Cup game, and that continued. It wasn't just us. We have a good attack. We have one of the highest scoring attacks in the league. Pellegrino didn't contribute to that, and he continues to not contribute to another good attack in San Diego, who's just struggled to make use of their opportunities against us, partly due to his, I don't want to say wastefulness because it seems really rude, but he isn't efficient in front of goal in the last year. He hasn't been, and so glad to see that continued. But I do wish overall that the story had been that he was performing consistently at the beginning of this season and stayed on our team and was able to provide the difference for us when we needed it. But unfortunately, not to be.
Yeah, the idea of signing Pellegrino at the time was inspired. You look at his track record, and with the knowledge that it is still a competitive league, it may not be a league that is on a lot of American soccer fans' radars, the Norwegian league, but those Nordic leagues are underrated in my opinion, and I think that it just didn't translate, and that can happen from any change in league, whether it's from a reputable league or not. And I think that we'll see. Maybe he'll have some more chances to redeem himself a little bit, but he was helped with the fact that Ingvartsen remains injured, and that's been one of the other storylines for San Diego FC this season, that he hasn't been able to feature nearly as much as they had hoped. And another player that I imagine will feature a lot more if he gets to recover in time before the playoffs, Verhoeven. I don't see Harangi or Pilcher as players that are necessarily leagues ahead of him, that he could definitely claim his spot back. Bombino will be a factor when he returns as well, and maybe Negri as well. So definitely not at full strength, but this is still a very strong lineup. But Dos Santos is their clear number one goalkeeper. They have their strong midfield three, and with Lozano and Dreyer, it shouldn't matter too much who the third person is in this attack, except for the reasons we stated above with Pellegrino. But with the goal coming in the 14th minute, much of the remaining 76 minutes plus stoppage was holding on for dear life. Any standout moments in this game for either of you? Maybe some saves from the player of the game, Danielle?
I mean, yeah, Daniel came up huge on that one-on-one chance where he just kind of threw his body, flopped to the side, and the San Diego player shot it straight to his stomach. Very fortunate for Daniel. I'm incredibly thankful that our scouting team found him, brought him to San Jose, and he's continuing to be the exact same Daniel that we knew since day one. Other key moments, I thought it was kind of unfortunate. I thought Josef could have had maybe at least two more goals in him last night. At the time the game. He tripped over himself, I think, at one point in the first opportunity. Then he scored the second, and then there was a third one, shot it straight to the keeper's hands. He played well. He played well, made the necessary runs as a starter that we wanted to see. And I think in the last episode where Abram and I were, maybe the last two episodes, where at least I was kind of criticizing him for a lack of effort. Um, he improved. I think he improved a little bit better than we had seen him in weeks prior. So I do want to give kudos where it's due to Josef Martinez. He got the goal in the run of play instead of just a penalty. At least as a team, I'm not like saying it just for Josef, but we're finally getting goals now in the run of play, and he's contributing to that again. And then also kind of it's like a 50-50 for Chicho. I didn't think he had the best game, but some of those passes he made to Josef were pretty key in creating dangerous opportunities, and I don't think that should go unnoticed. And then I think that we've also mentioned on like the back line, we have two rookies who stood up to Pellegrino, to Chucky Lozano, to Dreyer, to all these big name players who make a difference for San Diego day in, day out, and we locked it down. Those two guys plus Daniel Muni locked it down. And that's impressive because we've kind of been on their throats for a couple of months now, and they've proved their worth in a game where it really mattered the most.
Yeah. I'll continue in praising the defenders. I remember when we first signed Daniel Muni, a lot of people gave us a really hard time. I believe that might have been the same draft we lost Arfton. Not that we were ever gonna get Arfton, but I believe that if Columbus didn't get him, then we were gonna come back for Arfton in the second round. Anyways, that doesn't matter. We got Muni, and I remember at the time people were confused because we had like five center backs in the team, and doesn't seem so crazy now, does it? He's been a very consistent player for us. He was the leader in that back line, which is weird to say. Ivan, you mentioned how young that back line was, and Muni was at the center of it and didn't look out of place, in my opinion, and hasn't really looked too out of place throughout the year, except for maybe some hiccups here and there. There was one play that it was Max Floriani who he came in with a very crazy slide tackle. He ended up getting the ball. Very good challenge. But I was telling Devon I would never, ever in my life attempt that. If I was like a 6'2" athletic fast center back, I still would never in my life ever attempt that. So that's kind of the thing that separates an athlete versus a soccer player that knows what he's doing and has confidence in his body and
Gold
is
from
able to.
pyrite.
Sorry.
I was just saying, like, it separates gold from pyrite in a way.
Yeah, exactly. He was able to because it takes a lot of control to slide across the freaking ground and get a very precise touch on the ball. When if you make any wrong move there, you take out that attacker's legs. You're probably getting a red card. There's a penalty. There's so many things that can go wrong if you mess that up. So huge props to Max Floriani and Reed Roberts, who had a lot of doubters before this game, including myself. They've had very poor games this season, so it's not crazy to look at this lineup and be kind of nervous about what the outcome might be against this San Diego attack. But they were able to hold their own. I felt like they didn't seem that green. They seemed like regular run of the mill MLS defenders, if not more than that. So that's the praise that I think we can give them. They did do their job. I do think that we won this game because San Diego didn't show up to do their job, but it doesn't matter because who are the guys that got the clean sheet? It was those three.
With how rare clean sheets have been, each of them has to be stardust, a huge confidence boost, especially for these young careers. It hasn't been easy for them, and it was very great to see both Floriani and Roberts have their best games of the season in the same game. Maybe recency bias plays a factor into that, but I think for a lot of these games when they've played that you have to kind of game plan around them and see where you can kind of cover for potential mistakes. But now that they can pull this off, keep a clean sheet against one of the best teams in the West, we can give them a little bit more grace and some higher expectations next time they see the field. And with Bruce Arena's tendencies to not change a winning team, regardless of who's filling in, regardless if someone's about to come back from suspension or injuries, then we might have to see them again, and hopefully they have a good encore performance. Because while it's great, we can rest easy for a couple days and enjoy this win, and Quakes fans absolutely deserve to enjoy it because it's been rough. The reality is, I think they have to repeat this trick 2 more times in their remaining 2 games. When you're coming down to the wire and your rivals for that playoff spot have a game in hand, you have to maximize your points, and that's going to be easier said than done. Vancouver, their resume speaks for themselves this season. Incredible season. Even if we've already beat them once, it's going to take some doing to do it again in their backyard. And we've already lost to Austin a couple times. So there's no guarantees whatsoever. And it was a positive thing that there wasn't a guarantee because many people would have guaranteed we'd lost this game. So we have to keep that same energy, and hopefully it'll be competitive to the end, and they can at least fight their way in or out of the playoffs rather than go out with no fanfare.
I think with the Vancouver game coming up, I'm like very briefly browsing their statistics. With 59 goals for and 34 goals against, the Earthquakes, we need to bring our A game offensively. We're going to have to score more than 1 goal, more than 2 goals to seep out a win, I think, this game. Despite the fact that we just got a clean sheet versus San Diego, and Vancouver has a game on Wednesday. I know that they have a lot of attacking prowess, some players returning from injury. I took a very brief deep dive into our attacking play as well, and I think it's been since June, approximately maybe 14 or 13 games since we scored more than 2 goals in a game. And I think, as I voice crack here, I think we need to step it up offensively. We have attacking players. We have, albeit Benji Kankanovic was not necessarily an attacker, he was more of a backline player. We have the likes of Josef Martinez, Chicho Arango, Seni Buda. We have quality up there. We just need to put these chances away in order to sneak a win versus these top contenders.
There will be some reshuffling of the deck for Vancouver in these upcoming games. They'll be getting Kubas and Ocampo back from suspension. They'll probably get maybe some run in the midweek game against Vancouver FC. But then some key injuries include Veselinovic, Gold, Muller, and Blackman. So that was a similar story when we faced them the first time. They've shown tremendous depth, though, so there are capable players. So if we look at their lineup in their last home game against Portland, and that was interesting because their attendance was 20,000, so it's not looking like they're opening the upper level of BC Place for every game just because they have Thomas Muller now, but they're still able to pack out the lower level with no problems, and their fans are very loud. Takaoka will take some beating. Their defense is anchored by Matias Laborda, who's bringing goal contributions, goals, and assists. And then U.S. men's national team player Sebastian Berhalter is in there with Rolf Priso and Boge. And they have 2 very fast wingers that are going to give us big trouble. And they're more youthful, they're more athletic perhaps than the likes of Dreyer and Lozano, so it's going to be a different kind of challenge. And they also have Kenji Cabrera, a 22-year-old from Peru, a recent acquisition for him that he's filling in very admirably in the absence of Gold. And that's what I'm talking about with these depths, that they're finding players from similar places as the Quakes are. They have to get a little bit creative with their transfer strategy, besides the big swing of Miller, of course. But I think that coming off of some emotional back-to-back draws, one home against Portland and away against Seattle in Cascadia clashes, I think that they're showing the intensity they need to ramp up for the playoffs. And this is a team that they haven't appeared in MLS Cup final yet. I think they've had one conference final appearance, maybe that, if that. It's a little bit hazy, but this is a team that's primed to make some positive history in the playoffs. And even if we can just stall that momentum by getting a regular season win, it would be very important to do so. And looking at some of the wingback and the midfield positions for the Quakes, that's what's going to be very intriguing. We had two very attacking-minded fullbacks in Buda and Kikanovic for this game. What did you make of their performance, Abram?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about Benji a lot, Devon and I, just because he had a very strange trajectory for the Earthquakes, unfortunately due to injury, but he puts in a really good shift whenever he is called upon in this wingback position, which we wouldn't have expected when he started off as a striker. He's very attacking minded, but um, off the ball, he's very strong and he's very aggressive. Those two things, and also very big, very fast. And so it's very hard to stay away from him and keep him off the ball, or to even try to get the ball off him when he's holding you off. Um, and I think that Bruce probably is surprised by the quality that he had. And we were saying on this podcast that Benji, I think, is a Bruce guy. I think that once Bruce sees what he could do, he's going to really like him, and I think that is finally coming to fruition because this was a big game, and I don't know if Dewan Jones is still injured, but we have a lot of guys, right? We have a lot of guys who have been in and out of that fullback position, and Benji has at times, not been the first guy on the team sheet. So it's good to see him. Called up first and foremost, but also backing it up with a strong performance. I don't, I don't feel like he set a foot wrong. I feel like he, he's always going to give 100% effort, and then it really showed. I think he was the type of player with the right profile that we needed to get a win. Or yeah, we get a win. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the matchup provided too with Benji and correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't it Chucky or was it the other winger?
So, I believe Dryers was the right winger, so that was probably Buda's matchup, and Lozano was left winger, so that was Kikanovic's.
Yeah, so I mean that matchup alone, the fact that Benji hasn't normally played left wing back or a fullback position for most of this season. I know during the Reno 1868 days he played with Ian Russell in a backline position. But that being said, he hasn't had much time this season in being matched up as a starter against Chucky Lozano is a tough ask for someone like Benji. And sure enough, he rose to the occasion. He's like, if I want to place myself into a starting 11 spot, I'm going to perform. And sure enough, he did just that. And like Abram said, he's got the speed, tenacity, the agility, everything that you would want in a tallish fullback in a way. You got it in Benji.
And if you need more XD, X-Dog in him, Benji Kikanovic can definitely provide that. He usually has one of the more grass-stained jerseys at the end of a game, and that was the case in this one. There was times where he got beat, but he made sure that he recovered, he made up for it in other areas, and that's what you can ask for. And yeah, a couple of our players picked up yellow cards, Buda and Vieira, but I think that in the event that there's yellow card accumulation or you just need to sub someone off and you have LaRue to come in for midfield, as well as Kay as now the fourth option in midfield behind three other capable options. I feel good about that. Some of the defensive substitutions, though, would have liked to see more of an impact in terms of closing it out from Costa and Romney. There's some shaky moments for them when they had fresh legs in this one. Any cause for concerns or just champagne problems, and otherwise we got the result we needed?
I mean, nothing wrong happened. Who am I to single Costa out? I don't remember anything he did wrong. I'm not gonna look for anything he did wrong. He came in, did his job, and that's basically all we can ask from him.
I would like a little touch in there, though. I like being a voice of our Tectonic Takes Discord server people. You can find the link to our Discord server in the link below in our description. But that being said, I think fans, once Costa was subbed on, I think there's already gonna be somewhat of a bias of Costa's not shown us the right Costa this year. So we're just going to keep looking for things to kind of criticize him for. He didn't really have a very favorable opinion from our fans in as the game progressed after he was subbed on. So it seemed like he kept getting beat by the San Diego wingers and attacking midfielders. But that being said, we did walk away with a clean sheet. So the things that he provided to the team may not have been completely useful in the naked eye for a fan, but it provided use for the team as a whole, and it got us over that line.
Right. Any other closing thoughts on this particular game? Any standout moments or performances that we haven't covered?
I mean, I feel like it's pretty cut and dry. I think that players really needed a win. I think this is a good time to get it. We need confidence more than ever right now. And it might be all for naught, uh, potentially based on how things go, and we'll see what happens. But this is a really big boost in morale. I think at a very crucial moment because we have difficult games coming up. We have a tough schedule, no doubt about that. And it also provided, I think, some insight on players and how they're doing, the status that they're at. I think Benji is one of those players where Bruce, is going to feel more confident about having him as an option when Nick Lima is not playing, when Devon's not playing, uh, and going forward, I think that Jose Martinez is a player that gets hot, right? He's a player that confidence is huge for him. And if he can get on a hot streak at this tail end of the season, that would be really nice to see. And also, I was thinking to myself while working earlier today that if you told me last year that we'd get Chicho Arango, Jose Martinez, and they would both have 13 goals each at this point of the season, I'm not counting assists. I don't know how many assists they each have, but that's a really good return. I feel like for the investment that we put in for them.
I think given the fact that we have two players now that have surpassed the 10 goal marker before the end of the season. Usually we only just see Wando crossing that threshold and then maybe a couple of others as the years go by, like Vaco or Danny Houston from back in the day. And of course I'm going to bring Danny Houston up because I named my dog after the guy. But, that being said, like we don't usually see more than one player crossing that 10 goal threshold. And it's nice to see that the two guys that we brought in at the start of the season are now making do for those performances. I think, adding to Abram's point, we need more. We need more. In order to make playoffs, as we're one game ahead of both FC Dallas and Real Salt Lake, we need more points. If they were to get points, they both surpass us in the table. So no matter what, it's win or go home at this point.
Yeah, looking at some of the goal scoring stats around Major League Soccer, there's one team, Nashville, that it has a phenomenal duo. Sam Surge, 22 goals, and Hani Mukhtar, 16 goals. So that is just like a very high standard. More than happy that we've gotten 13 and 13 from our top two goal scorers. But the point I was making was that you look at the top 12 goal scorers, they each represent 12 different MLS teams, ranging from Lionel Messi's 24 to Diego Rossi's 16 before getting into Mukhtar, and then also in that tie for 16, Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting. So it is very special to have two very quality goal scorers, even if it hasn't looked pretty, and even though there's been some droughts here and there. Droughts are always expected for even the top scorers, barring very few exceptions. So they've come as advertised. At least they're coming as advertised at the right time. But we'd like to see them finish strong for sure. Any other player that we think needs to find another gear, or we're just happy to see that grit and determination?
I mean, I worry about this back line. I can't single out a specific player, but I don't think that we can look at the two rookies in Roberts and Floriani and expect them to produce this kind of quality every game. I think that would be irresponsible. And you're right that Bruce does like to stick with the winning lineup, and I do expect we'll see one or both of them in the next lineup. But I'm not sure if that's good. And hey, I think they did great, right? I'm not gonna sit here and dog on them and say that we can't see them ever play again. But they have shown us that they are prone to mistakes, and I think that if we get too caught up in the hype, which is very possible, we could see some more mistakes in the back line. But with that being said, the veterans that we've got that aren't playing, Rodriguez, Bruno Wilson, Romney. I almost called him Mitt Romney, not that guy. Um, they're not necessarily the solid dudes that we'd expect, because like this defense in general has let in too many goals, and so we can't look at these center backs and be like, oh, these guys are going to fix it, right? So it's scary, no matter who you want to go with, if there is still the possibility of having a game where we just like are blown out just because we let in more goals than we score.
Yep. Well said there. If you want to do the full scoreboard watch for the relevant games for the San Jose Earthquakes this Saturday, October 4th, it'll start at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. So Austin take on St. Louis. Actually, it'll start at 1:30. That's when FC Dallas hosts Galaxy. Uh, Austin will be our final opponent, and they'll also be in the U.S. Open Cup final. So I'm sure friends at We Are Austin TV are so hyped for that one. It should be a great U.S. Open Cup final between Nashville and Austin. But back to MLS, there's also Houston hosting San Diego FC, and rounding out the relevant fixtures for the San Jose Earthquakes, Real Salt Lake are hosting Colorado Rapids. So it is unnerving that a lot of the teams that were in that spot within the table are all hosting games, and we know how important home field advantage can be, particularly in Major League Soccer with all the travel and how regionalized the fan base is. There's not a lot of traveling fans or diasporas really in Major League Soccer compared to NFL, which has a lot more history than Major League Soccer. But that's going to be key to look at. But regardless of what happens on Saturday, Sunday, just focus on the task at hand at 3 p.m. There's going to be a lot more eyes on that game being a Sunday game and being a standalone fixture. We'll see if that increases the pressure, but I think the pressure is already sky high. The San Jose Earthquakes players, they know what they are capable of. They know what they need to do. Bruce Arena pushed the right buttons for this game, and I know that he will own both the successes and the failures, and he's always looking to improve the team. Like, it doesn't matter win or lose, that he's always trying to find different ways to approach the game and to optimize the game. And no coach is going to be completely happy winning in the fashion that we did. Of course, the result is great, but you want to have a little bit more control in this game. But I have a feeling it'll be a similar script against the Vancouver Whitecaps. Maybe not 70-30 possession, 60-40 maybe, possible.
Yeah. I think I was telling Abram during the game, like, we're used to seeing this team have more possession. Like, our team have more possession, playing through the back line, which is something I alluded to mid-game as well. And at least versus San Diego, like, I believe that there were a couple of opportunities where we could have progressed the ball a little bit further, faster up the field, but we chose to take that step back and then play it to our outside backs and then kind of just ring it around the back line. And the fact that we did that but still didn't win the possession game is slightly concerning to me as we move into Vancouver and Austin, where we kept getting blown out by counterattacks. I think a lot of Vancouver's chances when they had played us, when they went down a man, were like 90% counterattacks against us. And if that's the way we play, and the way we played against LAFC, in combination of those, I can see worry in Quakes fans' eyes. That's something we have to clean up. If we really want to win that possession game, we have to own our possession, but we also have to make our chances count. And that's not just like bringing the ball up the field and crossing. It's taking shots when we have the opportunity to, and ensuring that those chances test the keeper. I think a lot of Chicho's opportunities in San Diego, kind of missed the target entirely, and he was definitely visibly upset with himself. But those are things that we can't waste.
No, I saw your thing. Um, no, I do agree. I think that while you were speaking, Devin, I think that a theory popped in my mind, and I think that the reason that we ended up recycling possessions so much, and we made a joke like it's almost like Bruce made a rule where they can't go too many touches without hitting someone from the back line. Like they had to, as they're attacking, they started to look back and go back towards the back line,
I
and
remember we had a minute where Muni ran up, and we
yeah.
were like, okay, well at least we could pass the ball forward now because we have a center back in the, the striker duo.
Exactly, and we didn't, and we didn't. We went back to the guys who were in the back line, um, and you're right that we do get caught on counterattack. So I think that that could be like a way to mitigate the counterattack problem, where if you see the attack that you're currently forming and it's only like a 40% chance of success. I think that they were choosing to recycle those chances and look at it in a different way. And then, when San Diego had the ball, I feel like that they let them have the ball in areas where they were more comfortable in, defending. Where you can have the ball, but because we're in this spot, we're ready, and so you can have the ball because we're ready, rather than we're gonna attack. Oh no, we don't have the ball. Oh shit, they're coming up the field, and getting us off balance. So I feel like the it could have been, a tactical decision to allow San Diego to have that possession, with the caveat that when they have the possession, we are ready to defend them, rather than try and take those risks and to get another goal and then potentially lose possession in a disadvantageous position, which would allow them to maybe get behind us, which obviously we didn't let them do. So this might have been a Bruce masterclass. It might have just been me having fantasies while Devin was explaining. If that's up to you to decide, you guys at home.
Sweet, sweet fantasy, baby. So I feel like this game against Vancouver, I think that we'll probably get a goal contribution from at least one of Arango or Martinez, but I also think that it could also be a Preston Judd game. I think that Judd rightfully got a contract extension, and it wasn't a little annoying to see the negative reaction just because it was Quakes news and the Quakes weren't doing so well, and it kind of got redirected at Preston Judd. But I think that he's going to have one more goal before the end of the season. And I think Vancouver, it just works out. Maybe it's because I imagine him as kind of a similar player to one of their forwards, Brian White. So I think it would kind of be a nice little mirror match thing to have going on. But that's my tectonic take for that game. Win by any score necessary, and Preston Judd will have something to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, when we first got Judd, um, a friend of the show, Jamin Moore, who is used to be over at Quakes Epicenter, he said that he went to watch a training, and his opinion of Judd is that he scores all the goals, right? And that's like different types of goals. He can dribble, he can shoot, he can head the ball, a variety of different finishes. And so I think that's why we want a guy like him, because he can fit into different types of. He's a very versatile player. He stretches defenses. I think that he's necessary. You need a guy like him in this league, and he might not be this exact same mold as someone like Alan Gordon or Steven Lanhart, but he's a big dude who's going to cause chaos. He's a very similar idea, right? That you can kill the man, you can't kill the idea, right? Um, so I do think it's a positive that we kept him, and I think that there's no game where you can rule him out. So he can definitely get on the scoreboard in that Vancouver game. I wouldn't, I don't think that's a crazy take at all. I'm stepping on the Tachan take with you. I think that he could definitely score against that, because there's no game where Preston Judd can't score in.
Any closing thoughts? Anything Quakes related? One final thing I'll add before I'll give you the opportunity to answer that. Two things. Justin Martinez was a sub for the team of the week, And Nico Shakiris was among many goal scorers earlier today with the U.S. U20s thoroughly beating New Caledonia. Tougher battles ahead, of course, but good to see Nico Shakiris score.
I think anytime Nico's on the score sheet, I get really excited. And it paints a picture of like, why is Nico starting for the Town FC when he's producing for the U.S. U20 national team in a World Cup scenario? They have Benjamin Kramaski. Hopefully, I'm not mispronouncing it, but they have Benjamin Kramaski as the captain, and Nico did start for the team. What does that say to the Earthquakes? Why isn't Nico getting much time for the first team? I mean, things that we may not know, we're just kind of putting out there into the yonder of Speakville. I don't know what I'm saying, but anyways, it'd be nice to see Nico back in our starting 11 or just in the lineup in general. But it is nice to see him thrive for the U.S. U20 national team, and I know that's where a lot of those international eyes kind of peel to. If we were to hopefully transfer him on to a bigger name club at a bigger venue and bigger city.
Yeah, it was a bit of a minute squeeze, only so many minutes to go around in midfield. One of the recipients of some of those minutes in this last game was Noel Buck, so yeah, we've got plenty of players to play in those positions, and we'll see what Nico Shakiris' role is. At the very least, I'd like to see him in the lineup for the Quakes playoffs rather than the Town's playoffs, but I do think the Town are primed for a good run as well in those playoffs. Abram, any final words?
Uh, on the Town, they're doing really well.
If you
No,
like, yeah.
guys, if just real quick, if you guys are looking for a playoff run and you're like, oh, the Quakes aren't going to make playoffs, who do I watch now? The Town is a great team. Definitely watch the Town. It comes with your Apple TV subscription. Watch them. On Nico Shakiris, I do want to touch a little bit on it. We've talked about him a few times before. He just doesn't seem like a Bruce Arena player. I like Nico Shakiris a lot. I think that the type of midfielder he is someone who can really control the tempo and really dictate the flow of a game. But he just doesn't do boost things. I feel like when he's playing a 10, he wants to be an 8 and drop all the way down and get the ball and build up really slowly like that. He's someone who's like, you can't tell him not to come deep for the ball. He's gonna he wants the ball every time, and I applaud that in a player, but it kind of destabilizes the formation maybe a little bit, and also in the attacking end, he's really had a block in his ability to finish a play. When he enters the box, he can just something happens in his head. He gets way too nervous. He just can't finish, and that's something where if he was able to do that when he enters the box, when he gets those opportunities, we'd be getting offers for him no problem because he is a fantastic player, one of the most talented players that we have at the club, in my opinion. And it's just those things. It's just a fit thing. Because I don't think that he fits as an 8 in this system. He's a little bit too squishy. I think that he is an 8 overall, but I think that when you're looking at what he brings to the table, you want him as an 8 in a midfield 3 rather than a midfield 2 because he's going to be taking risks with the ball. He's going to be, driving forward with it rather than being like Ian Harkes or Vieira, who are more solid defensively. Not that Nico doesn't provide defensive stuff, but he is not like that's not the thing about Shakiris as it is with Vieira. Um, I think that with those things in mind, it's hard to see him breaking into this lineup unless we change the shape a little bit, because I do think that he's a very capable 10. And if next season something happens, like I don't know, but if Hernan comes back, I see Nico as a very good replacement option in whenever the fitness issues arise, whatever the case is. Because he's obviously a very good player and has the left-footed profile that Hernan has, so it's like a very similar kind of fit there. But man, I think that ultimately the sorry, I'm talking so much, but I have thoughts, a lot of thoughts. Uh, the best outcome for Nico Shakarias is probably a move away. And I know that we don't like to hear that, but I think that we can really catapult his career and send him to a team that is going to give him the system where he could thrive under. Because I do think, obviously, I said many times that he has incredible ability, and I think in the right team, with the right coach, right system, he can really be a centerpiece of a lot of teams. We see it with the USMNT, USMNYT, so many letters. Um, and I think that he could easily become like a star for the U.S. once he's being able to be showcased. The same way that like maybe Reyna was for Dortmund, he was getting chances, and we got to see what he was capable of. I think we need to see what Nico's capable of at the right level.
I just want to make a quick notion here, but obviously this is a Monday as we're recording this. Tomorrow is my birthday. I'm not saying you need to give me a birthday shout out, but I did want to mention that in our server, the Town FC is playing at PayPal Park on Wednesday at 7 p.m. If you are looking for a midweek game to go to and to enjoy your time with buddies, friends, and to watch, some Earthquakes players, come out to PayPal Park on Wednesday. Hopefully, this will be uploaded by Tuesday, and you guys have some time to hear it. But who knows? It's a busy schedule over here. But yes, Town FC, PayPal Park, Wednesday at 7 p.m. Go watch the team. Go support our Earthquakes guys over there, and have yourself a good night.
Yep. And Abram, do you know if we're still doing the MLS Next Pro thing where the one seed picks their opponent and then you go down the list? Because I like that.
I think so. I think it has the same structure as the season previous, but I don't know 100%. But it is a very cool structure. I agree.
I believe yes. The answer is yes. I'm looking at a message here. It just says my guess is they'll start picking their opponents at the beginning of next week. So it looks like that format is still alive and well for you, Ivan.
Perfect. Yeah, the last two regular season games are against the two teams of the Quakes' last two regular season opponents, Vancouver and Austin. That'll wrap up on Sunday, October 5th, including that midweek game as Devon alluded to. And yeah, I would respect that if they were bold and they picked a 5 or 6 seed, if assuming St. Louis finishes first and they pick they will finish first, no doubt. First, the Quakes, the town has to finish second. Still, that's not guaranteed. But in the event that they do, it would be a little spicy if they pick a 5th or 6th seed, but we'll see what happens. Someone's going to take a big swing. They always do in that format. And that will take us to the end of our episode. Thank you for staying with us for 50 plus minutes of your day. Thank you, as always, for your support. Follow us on Blue Sky, on Twitter, on Instagram. Join us on the Discord server. And as always, go Quakes.
Go Quakes.
Go Quakes.